Welcome to When Work Works, the podcast where we explore ideas, insights, and innovations helping shape the way we work and lead. I'm your host, Julie Develin. Today, we're diving into the big picture, the 2026 Megatrends that are redefining work as we know it. Joining me today is Sarah Hodges, Chief Marketing Officer at UKG. Sarah and her team spend a lot of time studying the forces transforming our workplaces, from technological disruption and AI to shifting employee expectations and the evolving role of leadership. We'll unpack today what these trends really mean for leaders like you and how you can prepare your people and your business for what's next. So important in this day and age. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Sarah, this podcast is called When Work Works, as you know.
Yeah.
To start, can you fill in the blank for me? Work works when?
People are engaged and passionate about what they're doing.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you. We love to hear the different ideas that people come up with that sentence, and yours is spot on and a mic drop. I love that. So, all right, Sarah, for those who might be new to the concept of UKG's Megatrends, why do they matter for executives and for business leaders?
I think they're important for a couple of different reasons. So as leaders, it's so important to look inside the four walls of your team, your organization, right, your company, but it's equally as important to look outside the four walls. And when I think about the megatrends, I think about them as a window into what is happening outside the four walls, right? What are these big things, maybe small things? They don't always have to be big things, right? They can be trends, they can be headwinds, they can even be tailwinds, right? That are going to have an impact on how we manage our business and we engage our teams and how we run our organizations, our teams, our people every single day. So the megatrends to me are that. It's a look into the outside world.
It is about a look into the outside world. And we're not saying, here's our crystal ball. This is absolutely what's happening. But it's almost like these are the signals that we at UKG are seeing. And we want our customers and the world to know, hey, this is what's going on.
That's right. I love that word. There's signals.
Yeah.
There's signals. There are things that give you a little bit of insight into things that are happening that you can then take action on. Right. But you're right. It's not a crystal ball. They're not necessarily predictions. They're insights that you can use to better lead, manage, and guide your team.
And who doesn't need more of that, right?
Always.
Any kind of insights we can have are always going to help. So when we look at the 2026 themes, which we're going to talk about, how do they reflect what you're hearing from leaders across industries?
Big part of what I love about my role is I get to speak to many organizations, different roles in different organizations. I get to speak to frontline workers. I get to speak to managers, supervisors, executives. And when I think about the mega trends, the things that I hear from them are directly aligned. Let's go to the frontline for a second. So I think in today's world, if you are a frontline worker or just a worker in general, there's so much happening around you from a technology perspective. Let's just say AI is one example, which I know we're going to talk about. It can feel exciting. It can also feel overwhelming. And it can also, dare I say, create a little bit of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And so in many conversations I have, there is that fear and uncertainty and doubt. And like when you dig under the covers a little bit more, what you find is it's fear, uncertainty, and doubt, more so because the workers are looking for insight around what does AI mean for them? What does it mean specifically for their role, their job, their organization, their company? They're just looking for some insight. They're looking for transparency. And I think that's really important as we think about democratization of AI and putting it to work. We have to make sure that the workers are also part of that. When I think about supervisors or managers, I'm hearing all the time, like they're worried about increasing productivity in a time, by the way, where they're all being asked to do more with less, but they're equally worried about burnout. They have employees that are giving 110% at all times. In some scenarios, they have less employees. They still have to drive increased productivity. They have to operate more efficiently and effectively. There's huge pressures on them right now. And they're looking for insights. They're looking for ideas. They're looking for inspiration. They're looking for best practices that can help them manage that. And then when I think about the executive level, they're thinking about all those things, right? What is the role of AI? What are the business results of AI going to drive for them? How do they keep their workforce engaged? How do they retain their top talent? How do they also acknowledge that there is a global labor deficit right now? How do they find the right talent, bring it into the right role? They've got the gamut of things that they're challenged with today.
Yeah, they absolutely do. It's funny. You mentioned AI, and is it even a conversation if we don't mention AI, right?
It's not.
Okay, right. It's funny, but it's also true. I mean,
Yeah.
do you ever think that you would say, "Oh, I'm not going to Google it. I'm going to chat GPT it."
Right.
Right? I mean,
Right.
it's changed the way we talk to each other.
Yep.
And that brings me to our first megatrend that I want to talk about: accelerating adoption, the people first AI imperative.
Yeah.
And this is really intentional. It's not the AI imperative. It's the people first AI imperative. So, Sarah, from your point of view, what's a step that a leader could take today to prepare their workforce to harness the full potential of AI?
Yeah. The biggest opportunity that we have is to make the employee part of the solution. In my conversations with frontline workers or just workers in general, there is that fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Well, that can be removed entirely if you make your employees or team members feel part of the solution, sharing the mission, sharing the strategy, sharing the vision around what AI is going to do and intended to do for the business, and then make the team, make the employee, make the coworker, make the worker part of that solution. Maybe there's an opportunity to test a new technology that's AI first. Maybe there's an opportunity to empower the team to come up with ideas around where AI could best optimize what they're doing. But in a people first approach to AI, you have to put the people first in solving the solution. And I mentioned, I've been fortunate to have a couple conversations with customers, and I had one recently. And so I said, "What are you doing?" Right? And she gave me this fantastic example where she said they recently rolled out an AI tool for content creation. So the premise there was, how do I empower the team to be more productive and have a tool that can take their ideas, right, and accelerate them? She spoke to her managers, her leaders on, this is the tool, right? This is the intent. Please go work with your teams on making it accessible and driving it through the organization. And naturally, as humans, we each take our own individual approach to it, right? And so she was sharing with me that one leader, went to their part of the organization and shared with their team, here's the tool, here's what we're trying to accomplish, here's where it's going to be implemented, and therefore, moving forwards, please use it as part of your content creation process. The other leader went about it as, here's the tool, here's what we're trying to accomplish, this is why we're implementing it. What projects do you have that are ripe for us implementing this now? And sort of gave them permission to solve how that use case was going to come into practice. And they both had varying successes, but adoption happened in that second leaders team much, much, much faster. We have empathy and we have emotions. And I think making people feel connected to something now is more important than ever before.
Yeah, I also think that this kind of connection is more important than ever before, face to face as
Yeah.
well. And I think one of the things with AI, leaders need to make sure that they are still prioritizing that personal interaction too. Obviously, we can utilize all of the tech tools out there, but trust is the basis of all of this, right?
Yes. And context.
And context. And I like what you were saying in that example of the one manager did it one way, the other manager did it the other way, and the manager who was more transparent and more clear about the why was the one that got the better results.
That's right.
And when we speak about AI today, oftentimes it feels a little bit arbitrary to employees. The term AI is out there. We hear it every single day. But what is it really, and what can it do for me?
That's right.
Right. So I love that bringing that down on a human level is absolutely an imperative. So
Yeah. Julie, if I may, I'd love to share one other example with
Yeah.
you. We were really fortunate to have a speaker, actually. His name is Jeremy Utley. He was at Stanford University, and he was basically painting the picture of how if we aren't embracing AI as humans, whether it's in our professional lives or even our personal lives, we're a little bit behind, right? Because the benefits of the human plus AI are proven to accelerate you, whether you're an individual using it or you're a team using it. The premise he was painting was that AI is most powerful when you embrace it as a teammate. So it's not you embrace it to do something for you. It's not you use AI. It's that you work with AI. And I think that was incredibly powerful. It's there to help you. It's a teammate.
I have the good fortune of speaking on stages, and I say the same kind of thing. I actually say AI, when we treat it like a colleague and not like a crutch,
Yes.
that's when we can really, really lean into the power of it. And I say, think of it as your best office mate without microwaving fish, right? Yeah.
Yes. I love that.
So
Yes.
when we understand the why behind the AI usage and put that human piece on it, that human touch, that's when we can lean into the power of it and take away the fear.
Yes.
You've mentioned a few times fear, uncertainty, doubt.
Yeah.
It's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And people come at it from their own perspective, as you mentioned, and what we're reading about all the things, oh, the robots are taking over. And I think we can probably see at this point that's not happening.
That's right.
But we do need to learn how to utilize these tools from a people first perspective. So,
Absolutely.
all right. So the second megatrend that we've identified is pursuing agility, the talent ecosystem reality. So we do a lot of work with frontline workers here at UKG. We lean into frontline workers and all workers, but organizations that have to balance full-time gig workers, AI-driven workforces, frontline workers, all while maintaining culture and consistency. How do we do that? Are there any internal development tools that we can utilize, or maybe communication tools? Or I think about it from, if everybody has the same place where they go for their information, like
Yeah.
UKG technology, right?
Yep.
Is there any way that we can bring all of those folks together?
I think this notion of a common place is really, really important, right? And by common place, I mean a place where you're going to have information that is going to help inform next said task. One place where you can come, where you can communicate perhaps with your teams, because your teams have insight. Maybe there's things you need to communicate to them, or they need to communicate to you. And then the third prong that comes to mind for me is this notion of it's a little bit of a buzzword, right? But like enablement. Where do you go to have access to information that's going to help you move to your next step, or be enabled to say take on perhaps a new task, or be enabled on how to do something more proficiently than perhaps you're doing it. And so I think about kind of those three prongs when I think about how do you aggregate all of that information in a place and then surface it at the right time to workers, to individuals, et cetera, who need it. And I think there is something to be said for having sort of a system of record that enables you to take action can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah, so often organizations will have data silos.
Yeah.
And in my experience, they prevent organizations from even seeing the skills that their employees have. Because, in one faction of the organization, I may be using one system to track skills, and in the other section, I may be using another, but they
Yeah,
don't see each other, right? And
exactly.
so you may be looking to fill roles, and you may have internal talent that you don't even know they have the skills to fill those roles,
That's right.
right?
That's
So
right.
yeah, so I definitely think that system of record is important. But the reality is we are in an era now where we are working with several kinds of workers,
Yeah.
and it's not an anomaly. It's become the norm. I do a talk for Disrupt HR. While we prepared for calm, work got messy. So the 9 to 5,
Yeah.
right, is no longer a thing, right? I mean, it is for some folks, but it's now normal to have lots of different shifts.
Absolutely. And I love what you just said, Julie, because it got me thinking about it in another way too, which is, the examples I were giving, I was thinking very much about the worker, right? And so if I think about the worker in that context, right? So they've got a place to go to get insights and information that help them be more efficient, more productive, right? A place they can, and this is the same place, right? Every time, like kind of that system of record, place they can go to communicate with their team, a place they can go to upskill, let's say, right? Enable themselves to take on more, or move into adjacent opportunities. If all those insights are gathered there, and then I'm the manager, right? And I'm very vested in my employee, my employees, having the ability to understand those insights in context also of how do this collection or cohort of employees schedule their time? What schedules do they like the most? How does that correlate to overtime? How does that correlate to trends in payroll? How does that correlate to signs I might be seeing around burnout? If I had a system that enabled those insights to be derived across the people, the humans, the team, that in today's world, I think is the secret sauce.
Your data is the magic 8 ball. I always like to say, no matter where you sit in the organization, if you're utilizing technology to track things, you have a story that's there.
Yeah.
The challenge is, how do you tell that story where people at all levels of the organization can understand that data?
Yep.
And that requires you to have that data in non-siloed systems,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
I would say to our listeners, taking a look at your tech stack that you have and say, is it working for you? Are you able to tell those stories? Can you trust the data? I think that's the other thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Julie. I think of one more thing there too, because again, AI is a wonderful companion, but if you also think about AI in context of understanding your business and applying your agents across your data, you have to have the data. And so I've also had some really interesting conversations lately around sort of how in some parts of our organization, that's even true for our organization, things are still analog. So like moving from analog to digital and going on that digitization journey is really important. Once you've digitized, then you have your data, right? You can structure that data if it's unstructured. Then AI can be applied to it and kind of the door is open. But your point around siloed applications, point tools, like having an aggregated system of record that enables you to then have a system of action requires that digitization. It requires the data. The data is more powerful than ever before.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, we're at the last megatrend, and the last one is one that I absolutely love. Well, I love all of them, but beyond engagement, the employee enablement era.
Yeah.
One of the pillars that I've learned, and I also have the good fortune of meeting a lot of customers and talking to a lot of HR executives, et cetera. One of the things I think that's important is that employees want to have autonomy to run their lives.
Yeah.
Right. So when we talk about the employee enablement era, what's the connection between enabling employees and well-being, and why should leaders care?
Yeah. Oh, I like this one too. We know that when leaders, executives, et cetera, create organizations that people want to be at and are highly engaged, it directly correlates to business results. And I believe the last Great Place to Work survey actually called out that companies that ranked at the top, the one thing they had in common is that if you looked at them through the lens of a business perspective, on average, their employees were bringing in about 8.5 times revenue. So there's a direct correlation, right? So if you engage your team, employees are happy, they feel supported, they feel connected to the company vision, they feel connected and supported as individuals on their career paths, whatever those career paths might be, the business results follow. And so when I think about this mega trend number 3, and I think about your question, I think there is a direct correlation between thinking about the employee in context of what can we provide to them in context of their worker journey. Like what things can we provide that make their day-to-day job easier? But then there's the other side of it. What things can we provide that support their career trajectory, whether that's moving laterally, whether that's moving up, maybe that's just taking on more shifts, whatever it is that's important to the employee. I think that's really important. Then the third prong, acknowledging, and I really feel like this is a differentiator for companies that embrace this, it's acknowledging that every worker is also trying to build their own personal life. It's not even just benefits, right? It's wellness. It's like, how do we provide access to tools that enable the employee to feel they have permission to take time to focus on mental health when they need to, focus on fitness when they need to. So I think about it in context of sort of those 3 different prongs.
Could also really, really improve talent acquisition. So if you as the organization offer something like wage access where you can get your paycheck, after you work, versus a competitor across the street,
Yeah,
that may be a recruitment tool.
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that peace of mind that we provide for employees. And enablement is looking at the employee as more than the worker. We hear that a lot, but what does that mean? It means looking at their whole picture: financial well-being, developmental well-being, relational well-being. And I think the other thing that's important, and this is where technology comes in, if people don't know that you have benefits for these things, then they're not really benefits.
That's right.
So providing them a location
Yeah.
to see those things easily and click a link and, hey, it takes me to our EAP or it takes me to our healthcare provider, et cetera, I think becomes increasingly important in this era where we have so many different ways that
Yes.
we get communication.
Yes, I think you absolutely nailed that there because no, honestly, because I think about it, right? Like we as individuals, regardless of who we are or what we do, we are bombarded all the time with information and we're all busier than probably ever before. And so knowing that something is there and having easy access to it is also so important. Otherwise, it becomes another thing to do that you never get to on the to-do list.
Right.
And this is one of those things that shouldn't be on the to-do list and you never get to do because it's about the person. And like I said at the beginning of your question, if the person feels supported and committed to the company mission and understands it and feels valued and seen, the business results follow. So it's a benefit to the worker, the human, the person, the organization, the team, the company. Bottom line, top line,
Yeah.
it impacts all of that.
Yeah, and we have data that show that. So, and in our show notes, we'll put some links to the Great Place to Work studies
Yeah,
so folks
great.
can reference them. So, to close out a little bit, if you could leave leaders with one message from from this year's Megatrends, what would it be? Or how could leaders turn these insights into action? Yeah.
Maybe I'll give a couple. So I'm going to start with more of a technology one. I can't help myself as a technologist. I think number one is really think about your digitization and your approach to data, because your approach to data can be the unlock to then using AI, using agents, and surfacing those insights, which, again, if we come back to that example that I was sharing around Jeremy, then AI can become your partner, right? It's something that can further enable you to drive forward your teams and your organizations. At the end of the day, I think the greatest thing that we can do is listen. Listen, listen, listen. You need the data and the insights, right? That's why I touched on technology as the first part, because that's an acceleration, right, to understanding what's going on. Listening is so critical, because that's where you pick up some of the insights that give you leading indicators in addition to the data around things that are happening. And if you're more informed, you can take action.
Listening is an art form.
Yeah.
It really is. In all my discussions, I encourage leaders to work on their listening skills. I always say I'm bad at it. I'm always thinking what I'm going to say next. But hey, that's me. I need to work on my own.
That's you
but
processing.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's processing. Yeah. Wow, Sarah, this has been an amazing conversation. We like to close out all of our episodes by asking a few rapid fire questions.
Oh boy. Okay.
If you don't mind.
Okay.
And if there's one you don't want to answer, it's okay.
I'll go with it.
I won't hold it to you. But all right, what was your first job?
Oh, I worked in a supermarket.
What'd you do there?
This is a funny story. So I thought I was applying to be a cashier. We had to take this little test. I don't even remember the details of the test or anything.
Okay.
But at the end of the test, I'm all psyched. I'm like, I'm going to be a cashier. Like, I'm positive. And they're like, no, actually, we're going to put you in the back room. We want you to manage like the inventory and the SKUs. And I'm like, really?
Numbers.
But I learned, and I'm not a number person, but I learned so much about supply, demand. And anyway, that was my first job.
It's always those kind of unexpected things that teach us the most, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a book that you always recommend?
Oh my gosh, I have many, but there's one I really like. So it's written by the CEO of Girls Who Code, and it's called Brave, Not Perfect. It's fantastic. It looks through the lens very specifically of how women, females, girls tend to grow up thinking that they have to be perfect. Very different. Usually it's like innate in them compared to males. And the book basically talks about, it's not about being perfect. It's about being brave. And I love that. I love that.
That's fantastic. All right. One last one. What is one thing that listeners would be surprised to know about you?
Oh, my goodness. Well, maybe if you're listening and we haven't met, you might be surprised to know, despite my very confusing accent, that I grew up just outside of London and then moved to the States and went to college in the States and have lived on the East Coast in Boston for almost 30 years. But I am constantly asked if I am from South Africa or Australia, of which I'm not. So maybe that's an interesting thing.
I have heard that story many times, and I absolutely love your accent. Is the coolest. That's
Thank
all
you.
I can say.
Thank you.
That's all I can
Thank
say.
you.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much,
You.
and thank you to everybody for tuning in to When Work Works, and for listening to When Work Works, and to watching When Work Works. If you like this episode, please feel free to like and subscribe. And thank you again, Sarah.
Thank you for having me.
Take care.
You too.